So when the time comes for the event to start, we have a 3-day practice period on the weekend prior to the event. So a week out, we go for 3 days. And the water, when I got there Friday morning, the water temperature was 40 degrees, 39, 38, 39, and 40 in the back of the creeks. And I fished I had so many waypoints from hump to everywhere. It's stuff everywhere. I was like connect the dots on my Lowrance all the way around the circle, just connect the dots, going to waypoints. And it was like 12 o'clock, I hadn't had a bite yet, not a bite. And I'm the local guy that they're expecting to maybe do good. So little by little, I'm getting more worried about what I'm going to do. And I run all over this lake, and all the grass had died. And this is why I'm setting the story up for how it all happened. The grass had died because it froze over and was so cold that all the good milfoil had just kind of gone away. And then we had a lot of rain, and it washed out all the grass down the lake. So it was a barren lake. Didn't hardly have nothing in the water. So I didn't do good the first day. I think I had 0 bites the first day. Like 12-hour day, they're about on the water, cold, miserable, and not a bite. And I got sick, and I had a bad sinus infection, and I had medicine, I had to go to the doctor, get antibiotics, get shots, and all that. I had to go back out the next day, fish again, and all day long, and I caught 1 bass. It was like a 5-pounder. And then the third day, went out all day again, and it started warming up a little bit, and the water had got up to about 42, and I caught 2 that day. So I caught 3 bass in 5 days prior to that classic. And so, needless to say, I didn't have a lot of confidence going in. Now, at the same time, now this is Sunday. Now, Monday is an off day. Tuesday's a day you check in and registration goes on. That's the day they start doing interview after interview after interview about everything. So I show up at that deal. They're all interviewing, you live here, and what are your chances to win the classic? What does it feel like? How do you think it's going to be? What kind of weight's going to win? Ask you all these same questions. And I was telling all of them as the best I could. I didn't want to sound too negative or too worried, because then if I did good, they say, well, you were sandbagging or you were lying or something. I don't want that to happen, so I'm trying not to be too enthusiastic, because I don't want them to think, then if I don't do good, they're going to be like, man, he choked, So I'm trying honestly, I had 3 bites in 5 days, 3 fish in 3 days, and not 5 days, but 3 days. And I said, I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to warm up. And the extended forecast is the only hope I had. It showed we have the first warm up of the winter, and it was getting into the 60s midweek during the official practice day. And then the event itself, it was getting into almost the 70 degrees. So that's like first warm up of the year. That always has to help. So Wednesday comes around. We have 1 official practice day on Wednesday. And I fished that day, and the water was like 45 degrees. And I noticed everybody, all guys, 50 guys out there all over the deep water main lake. And little by little through the morning, you start seeing boats disappear. You don't see anybody anywhere. And that's usually a sign that everybody figures it out quick. So everybody's going to the backs of the creeks now, the backs of the pockets. And I started doing that too and caught a few fish. So that day I caught like 5 or 6 bass. Last 1 or 2 I caught were big ones. And they were all in the very back, very shallow up in the weeds, and it was like 48 degrees in the back of this creek. So that was my hope. I said, well, I'm not really on that much, but I'll just keep expanding tomorrow. I'll start in the back of this creek, Spring Creek, and I'll just go from there. So that night, we had Thursday, the next day, was media day. So that's the day that all the media people from all over there, they're asking all the same questions and same kind of interviews, and we go through that all day. And everybody, I keep trying to put the pressure on Randall Tharp and Gerald Swindle and all the guys, everybody else that they were asking about. And be like, no, Randall Tharp, he's from Florida, but he used to live here. He knows this lake better than anybody. That's who I put my money on. I was just giving it all to them, just putting the pressure on them guys. I didn't want them to focus on me at all. And so the Thursday night comes, and we have the biggest severe weather outbreak of the year. It was 70 degrees that day, one of those bad stormy, Alabama tornado alley type of deals, bad weather. We were staying in a house at the lake, and it flooded and rained, and I had my boat in a little garage at this house working on my tackle, and it rained like 2 or 3 inches just fast. So I was like, man, what is it going to be like tomorrow, So we get up the next morning to start the classic on Friday morning. When we go down, we cross the bridge of this creek, and I could barely see the daylight, and I could see the orange clay mud just blowing out of there like 100 miles an hour coming out of the back of this creek. So immediately I saw that, and then my wife, I told Robin, I said, oh my gosh, look at that water running in the back of the creek. I said, that's awesome. She said, why you like that? I said, because everybody that's got it figured out is totally ruined now. They don't know what they're going to get out here this morning and they're going to be upside down. They're not going to know what to do. And I don't know what to do yet, so now I'm going to start over again. That's kind of how it happened. So we get out there, and sure enough, I mean, we start the tournament, and I run up the lake, and I go right to one of the little bridges and ripraps right away to another creek, because I know the water's going to be moving. They're rushing it through. And there's debris floating everywhere, and it just rained like 4 or 5 inches. And I get to that first bridge and start throwing the crankbait on the rocks and start catching a few fish pretty quick, and I catch a limit. And then I go underneath the bridge, and then when I went from the water out here was 48, 49, and I went under the bridge and it immediately went to like 56. And so all that muddy water was coming in the back of the creek. And now the puzzle starts coming together. Now you start thinking, well, if I was a bass and I was out here in this cold 40, 45 degree water freezing my butt off all winter here under the ice, and all this warm rain came in, I'm gonna swim under this bridge and go get to eating some, you know. That's the way I think. And so sure enough, all those bass were doing that. And under that bridge, I mean, I caught 20 back and forth down that bridge. Nobody else around doing it anywhere. And so part of me is worried because I ain't seen anybody else. And that's usually a bad sign in the Elite Series or the Classic. If you don't see any other boats, it's usually because you are in the wrong place, not them. And so I don't see them anywhere. So I get out there, I catch them. So I thought, well, I'm going to see if this pattern's holding true. So I run to another creek that I've been to before, catch them, run to another one, catch them. I mean, I caught probably 30 or 40 that day. Just lots of 2.5 to 3 pounders. And finally I caught a 4 or something. And then right in the day, I caught a 6 pounder. So that bumped me up to 20 pounds. So I still didn't feel comfortable on gunners with 20 pounds. It's like just an average day when they're biting good. And I didn't know they weren't biting that good though. So I get in the weigh-in, and I ended up being in 12th place at the end of the day with 20 pounds. But 26 pounds, Tharp and Evers had 26, 12, right at 27 pounds. So I knew I wasn't out yet. So I was still okay. So I go in the media room. They all do their interviews, and then you still got a chance, you know. You say, how do you feel about tomorrow? And they ask you all this stuff. And so finally, the next day, I go back out, and I go back to one of those bridges again. And now I'm thinking that the big fish are moving in more. And I get there, and I catch a 6 pounder, and I hung another, only one I lost all week, another big one, just pulling and come off. And I caught lots of fish everywhere I went. Well, in the end of the day, I only had 18.5 pounds. And right as I was leaving to come in that day, I ran to Spring Creek Bridge where I ended up winning the last day. And I stopped there, and that was my 3rd time fishing that bridge. I hadn't caught any there the whole first 2 days. And Gerald Swindle started on that bridge the first day and fished it half a day because he, just like me, knows, the people that live around there know that area is known for having a lot of big fish just piled up because it's real deep water in there, a lot of shad. So that timing of that deal, it still hadn't happened yet. And I was there, and I stopped there with 15 minutes to run in. I run over there and hit it. And when I pulled up, the water temperature was still like 52 degrees, and that cold, warm water in the back of the creek still hadn't made it out there yet. And so I catch 2 or 3 keepers, you know, just little ones pretty fast, and I run in. So I was kind of disappointed. I had 18.5 pounds, you know, not good. I get in there, go to the media room after I weigh in. You know, all the guys never look up. They've already watched me weigh in on the big screen, and all the media guys back there. It's a big room just full of them with computers, you know, and nobody wants to interview poor Randy because, you know, I'm out. I got 18 pounds, you're done, you know. Good try, you know, consolation prize. And so I walk through, and I'm like, you know, hey guys, how y'all doing? Hey, anybody want to interview me? No? Okay, I'll get you something to eat. I'll see y'all later. So I go on back and see nobody. Well, the only guy that comes up and talks to me was one of the Bass, Steve Wright, one of the Bassmaster.com writers. Wright comes up to me, and I'm eating some food, and he's like, he had his notepad here, and it was almost the end of the weigh, and now everybody had weighed in, and there was 12. He had everybody putting on their weights, what place they were in, and I was in 11th. And he said, Randy, he said, on this list here, how far down this list would somebody have a chance to actually win the Classic tomorrow if they had this spectacular day? Well, let me see. I looked at the weight, you know, all the way down to 12th place. 12th place was like 10 pounds out. And in 13th, it was like 12 pounds, and it started getting separated. But 10 pounds out, I was just inside of that. And I didn't even think about myself. I was just looking at the actual weight, 10 pounds out. I said, well, Steve, you know, more than likely, somebody in the top 5 typically wins. I said, but anybody in the top 12 is my guess that could win here, because there's so many 9 or 10 pounders in this lake. You know, one big body, you could be right back. And I was talking positive, you know, pro talk as I call it, you know, giving him all the pro speech. And so he takes the line and he draws a line under number 12. He said, he writes my initials right there. He said, okay, thank you. And so he goes on. Never had an idea when I was saying that it was something, you know, would ever really happen like that, you know. So I go the next morning and get ready to go out. And as we're getting ready to put the boat in that morning, you know, it was warm, just beautiful warm Sunday morning. You know, the first warm day, first warm weekend of the year, and typically everybody in the country comes out and fishes on the bridges and the ripraps, you know, on Sunday morning. It's warm and pretty. And I was already thinking, you know, man, this could be tough today, because all these places I've been fishing are bridges and community holes. It's going to be people everywhere this morning, because we don't take off till the sun comes up, you know. And so as I'm getting ready to put the boat in, my wife, you know, we always say a prayer before we go out. She said, well, she said, you need to stay open-minded, I think, today, because this could be just one of them days that might be something, you know, weird might happen, or something crazy might. She just said something kind of off the wall, and I said, all right, yeah, that's cool. So we go out, and I go on over there, and I get ready to take off, and all my plans I already told them, and I told the Livingston Lures, the camera guys, we're going to film some. I told them to go to the Mill Creek Bridge. That's where I was going to be at, Mill Creek. So they were already gone up there. So now we take off, and I'm sitting there running up the lake, 75 mile an hour, trying to pass every skeeter I could in front of me, like always. And I don't like to turn around, because I like to pass people, you know. I like to run fast, and I've got that Trident in the wind, and I'm trucking along there. And luckily the GoPro camera saved the classic, because that GoPro camera was on the windshield this year over everybody's boat. First time we've ever had that happen. So usually, if you're not in the top 6, you don't have an actual ESPN big camera guy in your boat. So that GoPro was all we had, and I'm running up the lake, and I mean, I just get overwhelming. I just see a picture in my mind of me under that bridge catching fish, just like a little flash in my head, and I see it. It's like, man, it's like, you know, go to Spring Creek Bridge now. I hear that in my head, go to the Spring Creek Bridge. I'm like, I don't want to go there right now. I've got all my wife's up here at this bridge, the camera guys up here. I've been told them they're going to say I'm a lying fisherman if I don't show up to this bridge. I've been told. So I run, and I'm running out, and I start trying to talk myself out of it, and it says it again, and it's like, you want to be good or you want to be great. That's what I heard in my head, and I said, all right. So I turn the boat around, and the camera shows it on the show. You know, it shows my boat turn out of line and go back that way. And when I did that, I mean, I was so pumped up and excited and just overwhelmed with emotion that, I mean, I got my save face mask on, running, and my marshal's sitting over there. And luckily he couldn't see me, because I was like, just tears were just blowing out of my eyes, because I don't know, it was just a weird feeling, just an amazing feeling I've never had before.